It's Zack Edey with Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I am your host, Joe Jackson. Joining me again today is Ben Kolodzinski from ISC Purdue. Purdue wins 92-86 in Edey's return to Toronto area. Just a great game in general, just to watch. Like from a pure basketball fan, just a great game to watch. Purdue obviously comes from behind in that second half, gets the W. Braden Smith goes absolutely nuclear. Edey was dominant, and it really was those two guys that carried Purdue to the win. I mean, 27 for Braden, along with 8 assists, 5 boards, 35 points, 7 rebounds for Edey. Just an absolute masterclass in that second half for Braden. I thought just kind of getting what he wants, and he had that swagger to him. And yes, maybe it results in a couple of forces, but it's just it's a mode that I absolutely love seeing Braden in. So we're going to talk about him a ton. We're going to talk about Edey a ton, everybody else. But Ben, what are your just initial takeaways from the game?
So my initial takeaways are pretty clear. The first things first, obviously, Zack Edey had a hell of a game up there in his homeland of Canada. Good homecoming for him. But secondly, what's really important is that the strength and the secondary scoring option from Braden Smith came in here. And, 27 points from that young man. It's kind of a Batman and Robin situation here. And for this team to withstand the onslaught of three-point shooting that Alabama was putting on in the first half, they hit 13 threes. That is a huge number. So 13 threes in the first half. That is the amount that they have hit for an entire game this year. And they hit it in the first half. So there was just gut punch after gut punch after gut punch in the first half. The Boilers were losing just by 2, but they ended up taking over in the second half and luckily holding on to the victory. Really impressive victory by the Boilermakers today.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama shot, I have the stats here, and we'll go through them in a bit. Alabama shot 46 threes in this game.
Wow.
They took 64 shots total. Like at the end of I tweeted it out. At the end of the first half, they were 13 of 25 from 3, and they were 2 for 5 from 2. This was a team that part of it was, they were running good stuff to get good threes, but they were putting them up, and they were knocking them down. Sears goes 8 for 16 from 3. He has 35 points. Like that, I was kind of talking after this game. The only point in this game that I was a little worried was when Bama went on that early second half run.
Right.
That point, I was like, okay, maybe Bama just doesn't cool down. Purdue just isn't quite clicking, and Bama kind of squeaks one out. But aside from that, like even in the first half, I was like, man, like I don't think Purdue's playing bad. I really didn't. I thought Bama was just there was a lot of mistakes, but like I thought Bama was just knocking down their shots, and Purdue was struggling a bit to get their offense going, and that totally flipped in the second half, especially with Braden. I mean, Braden had 19 points and 4 assists in the second half. 6 of 14 shooting, 3 of 6 from 3. Like, just absolutely needed everywhere. So, there's a lot of chat going on. We appreciate that, everybody, tuning in. If you are here, if you enjoy our content, please hit like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitter, Facebook, all that. I don't quite know how that works, but if there's a way that you can please do that, because that does help us out a lot. So, yeah, Purdue wins 92-86. Kraig was there in person. He's in Toronto currently, I believe, doing presser and then potentially hopping on, just depending on what the time permits. So, and we might be getting some post-game questions from him. Yeah, Ben, I guess who do we want to start with first, Braden or Zack Edey? Because I feel like those are the two clear options for this game. Well, unless there's something else you wanted to hit on first.
Well, we'll get to some of the other ancillary things going forward. I think it starts and ends with, or it doesn't end. It starts with Zack Edey here for this game. 35 points. He didn't get the 10 rebound mark, but that's because there wasn't 10 missed shots to be found here throughout the entire game. But the 35 points, that in itself is a Herculean feat. Now he performed that against Northwestern in a loss, but 35 points still in a victory. You're going to do a lot, or you're going to have a lot of success if you were scoring 35 points in a game. If your best guy is, and Painter has alluded to that here the last couple press conferences he's had, he was a force in this game, and the Alabama fouls against him. If you were listening to the game, the Benetti and Hummel combination, which, by the way, is the best combination of color and play-by-play in all of college basketball, absolutely. They were starting to say, hey, Purdue's losing by 8 points. But the way the fouls are adding up, Purdue's going to, I'd rather be in Purdue's shoes right now than I would be in Alabama's shoes. And to the casual fan, you go, that makes absolutely zero sense. I'd rather be down by, or I'd rather be winning by 8 points than be, in a position where we're going to be shooting free throws for the rest of the half. But those guys know their basketball. They took over and it ended up working real well. But a lot of that has to do with the immovable force, or the irresistible force and immovable object of Zack Edey. He did an excellent job, and he was really what caused this momentum to change.
Yeah, 100%. It was, Taterology kind of brings it up. Bama gave Purdue real problems when their top two bigs were on the floor, but it swung hard to Purdue when fouls forced them to sit. And I think that's true both ways. I think, Bama got out to that hot start when they had everybody in, but you just have to change the way you play when you have, at half, you have two bigs with 3 fouls and 2 bigs with 2 fouls.
Right.
Then, Edey, I think Edey had 17 in the second half on 6 of 10 shooting. He had 18 in the first half. I didn't realize that.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is. Edey was just absolutely getting his. They didn't have an answer for him. Braden, it kind of goes to Braden a bit too. He had a couple where, because he's so aggressive hunting a shot, now it opens up Edey's role, and now he can just be the ones that get to the rim. There's the one, I tweeted it in my film thread. I think it was 3 minutes left or something like that, 4 minutes left, that Edey gets the roll and it's the and one. That's because of Braden. Braden is hunting a shot all game, and now their big steps up more, threads the pass to Edey on the roll, and Edey. The other thing with Edey, there's 2 things. One, he went 11 for 11 from the line. Huge. He has not been.
Yeah.
Even before this game, I know some of the free throw shooting has been inconsistent. Before this game, he was shooting his best free throw percentage in a season for his entire career, which is wild to think about because we're all just man, there's a lot of misses.
Sure.
But 11 for 11 from the line, but he converted some of the and ones, and the Northwestern game especially kind of stands out. There is 3 or 4 that's just man, those are. It's instead of an and one, it's 2 free throws, and it's those probably should have fallen. So, I think the touch is right there again with Edey. He forced up a couple that he thought was going to be fouls. I don't really know what you do about that. But yeah, just an absolutely dominant game from him, and just this one was more because of the offense. Sometimes he's elite defensively protecting the rim. When Bama shoots 2 shots inside the paints, there's only so much you can do there.
Right.
Wasn't I think it was more of a rebounding effort for Purdue in general, and they struggled some on the glass. But at the end of the day, you have the best player in the country, and it's hey, Edey, go score 2 points when you're right at the rim.
Exactly. And you got to keep this in mind. Alabama took 46 threes, which is an incredible number. Hold on. Let me check and see what Purdue took for the game. Purdue took 18. Yeah, 18 for and Purdue had a respectable percentage.
Right. 19 makes. Purdue took 18 threes.
That's incredible. And that has something to say with Alabama's philosophy. Okay, so a lot of the people who are really good with numbers and who have a higher intelligence level than mine, they say that Alabama is one of the most efficient teams in the NCAA. 90% of their shots come from either 2 feet from the basket or from the 3-point line, which is what all of the analytics folks say, is that you want threes and you want layups or dunks, right? And so 90% of their shots come from that fashion. But then you see a circumstance where Braden Smith hits a couple mid-range jumpers. All right, so he's working around, he's doing his thing, he's working his way to the right elbow, he's hitting a 17-footer, and he hit 2 or 3 of them throughout the game. And then what happened at the end of the game, Joe? He moves to the right shoulder, and all of a sudden Alabama has to respect that mid-range jumper. One of the lowest percentage, lowest efficiency shots in all of basketball. And then all of a sudden, boom, dishes it. Zack Edey gets an and one dunk, I think, if I remember correctly, or an and one play. And all of a sudden, you blink, and Purdue's in the midst of a 17-3 run. And all the pain and heartburn that I had in the first half is gone because, Purdue's pushing almost a double-digit lead at one point in the second half. That is just go to show you. And I guess we're kind of segueing into Braden Smith at this point. But his incredible performance today, Zack Edey's getting a lot of headlines. Braden Smith was a real dude today, and he absolutely earned his stripes.
Yeah, 100%. We can go to Braden. 27 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, 9 of 20 overall, 4 of 7 from 3. They were going under on him, especially in that second half, and he just made them pay. He said, and it was just, it's the difference between this year and last year. And, I think you saw it late in the Northwestern game when he was like completely gassed as he started to really force there. This game, there's a couple bad shots, and there's the late one. There was the one with less than a minute left. That one's different. I think that's a different set of circumstances. That's just like a dumb play, not like a forcing the play. But maybe he took a couple at the rim or whatever. That's like, man, that's kind of forced, but it's still like, that's still a high quality shot.
Sure.
Or in general, especially with Edey there, Edey can get the rebound a lot of times. He had such good control of this game. He didn't have to fly off the first screen. If he didn't like it, he said, "Hey, Edey, come back up here. We're going to run this thing again." And then he did it a couple times, and then got a good shot off that. Finding Edey, he had a couple just beautiful drop offs to Edey, or the one where he goes all the way baseline, kind of spins around and throws it to the outside hand at Edey. Now Edey spins, and Edey has a wide open dunk.
Sure.
Just like anything that he wanted, he got. For the most part, like it was, I think he adjusted too, because I put in my notes I don't have the exact timestamp, but it was before in the first half, probably 10 minutes left. I was like, hey, Braden's not really handling this aggression that well. I don't think he's really comfortable right now. And that's when you see, Northwestern, that's when you see the turnovers start to happen, or whatever game you kind of want to point to. Usually that wears him down, and it did not stay. And in the end, he used it to his advantage, and it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. What's really impressive to me is that the creativity that we've seen from this Purdue offense. Now, a lot of people are going to say, okay, we feed Edey too much. You see that on Twitter, right? Feed Edey, feed Edey, feed Edey. But you know what? Braden Smith had 27 points today. Because all of a sudden, now you've got two potential, all Big Ten, all-American types playing off of each other. And together, okay, they're scoring almost 70 points, right? And, it's just a back and forth, a type of situation where they're almost 60 points. I apologize. I think that's right. I'm not great with math. I apologize. Whatever.
62 points is the combined number.
There you go. See, Joe, you're the smartest man in the room once again. And so, I'm terrible with arithmetic. I apologize, folks. But the bottom line is, Braden Smith, okay, so he's getting to the hole. He's dishing the ball. But you know what? How many threes did he hit down the stretch? Two or three. And these are cojones, like huevos threes, right? That you saw, to bring Major League into the equation here, the movies from the 90s. Definitely a circumstance where he put the game on his shoulders when he needed to be, knowing that he had an All-American and the National Player of the Year on that block, and they could play off of each other. It was a really impressive performance.
Yeah, and with that, with everything that he had to do, 1 turnover in the game. And I think somebody brought it up. Alex Rockhold said, we did not have many turnovers in the first half, even though lots of people thought we did. Purdue had 9 turnovers in this game. And Bama, their press wasn't like super aggressive, right? It was kind of more of a guard the inbounds and then drop back. But when you think of Bama, like that's a long physical team. That's a team that Purdue has a lot of turnovers against. And, one of them happens in the last minute with that Jones lawyer just slips his lawyer's hands. Jones should have let him more. Lawyer still just should have caught the ball. But besides that, then there's 8 turnovers for the rest of the game against a team that's, I don't know. Let me see. What does Alabama do defensively right now? I know this is not great live podcasting. I'm getting there. Okay, they don't force like an insane number of turnovers, but they're just a long team that has that's a kind of gives Purdue problems in different ways.
Sure.
But yeah, no, Braden is emerging as one of the best point guards in the country. I don't know where wherever you want to rank him, but he's being one of the best. He's only a sophomore. He's taking that sophomore jump now. Obviously, last year he kind of fell off towards the end. We need to see that. But right now, for the most part, I don't know what else you could ask for him.
I'd like to see the cut down on the turnovers a little bit. But the thing is, a lot of these turnovers are coming in situations where he's trying to be aggressive. Right?
Yep.
When you want someone to kind of hoist the team on your shoulders and kind of either take it to the hole, make something happen. All right, he's trying to make something happen, so you can kind of forgive a lot of these deals, right? But when you're getting into 6-7 turnovers in a game, all right, hey, maybe, what planet are you on? Kind of come back to earth here a little bit. But today was not one of those games. Okay, every time how many turnovers did he have, Joe?
Braden or the team?
Braden.
One turnover.
One. What?
He played 37 minutes.
37 minutes, and he pretty much handled the ball the entire time.
Yep.
One turnover. So I at risk of sounding like Kraig. No, I can't do Kraig's voice or mannerisms, but he's a nice guy. But at the beginning of the season, people weren't saying that he was even a top 25 player in the Big Ten. People were saying that he wasn't even a top 25 point guard in the nation. And I think all of us here who wear the old gold and black, the types of human beings that are going to listen to Boilers in the stands and pay attention to what's going on, that is ridiculous. It's some BS, man, because this dude can ball, and he was good last year. I said it from the very beginning of the season. If Purdue did not lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament, they'd be getting a lot more respect than they were, or a lot more respect this year. All they had to do was win one game. If they would have lost in the round of 32, that people would be like, this team is good. But you know what?
Yeah.
They didn't. All right, we all know the history. We don't need to keep bringing it up. You can't hurt us anymore with that insult, right? But the bottom line is that this team is awfully good, and Braden Smith, even though maybe in last March he was kind of exhausted and his legs weren't underneath him, he's still playing good ball, and he's really leading this team right now. He is absolutely someone I would love to be able to lean on come next March.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm sure, I don't quite know if Kraig's going to eventually hop on or not. If he does, I'm sure we're going to talk Braden Smith a little bit more even. So one thing before we get to the rest of the players, I kind of want to hit on Painter because I thought the second half was like an amazing Painter game. So the shot, for anybody that's watching on video, we have the rotation up. I'm going to throw out the slight caveat that I'm like 95% confident that this is 100% accurate. This was obviously a little more tense game, and there's a couple I was like, I'm just pretty sure this would happen. But it matches up when you look at the box score and the numbers and all that. Aside from that, Lawyer was not good this game, and he plays 7 minutes in the second half. TKR struggled after the first couple minutes. He plays 3 minutes in the second half. Colvin, who I thought this was Colvin's best game because he actually did stuff defensively, and he's the one that comes in down the stretch. And I thought that's where Painter was going to go. You see a little bit more and more, and you see Heidi gets his normal stints. But I just thought it was a great adjustment of one, he rides Braden and Zack Edey for all 20 minutes, and then two, he substitutes. He goes with who needs to be in for the game, and I thought he just did a great job at that, knowing where everybody just knowing who needed to be on the floor. And sure. I think Painter gets a lot of criticism for sticking with guys or whatever, but I thought today he was great in that second half. Even just kind of adjusting. Sure. Jones got burned a few times on flare screens and stuff, but I thought they did a little bit better job in the second half of at least rotating better to threes. It still wasn't great, but just in general, I think Painter sometimes sticks with guys and it hurts him. He absolutely did not do that today. He went with who needed to be on the floor, and it absolutely worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that right now Painter is getting a little bit of heat for the Trey Kaufman-Renn, Zack Edey front court starting combination. Here's the thing. He's only, and according, you see it with your little map that you run here, they only stick with it for a few minutes. And they're creating how many minutes in the first half did they run that lineup?
TKR Edey?
Yeah.
4 minutes in the first half and 3 minutes in the second half.
7 minutes of a 40-minute game. They ran that combination. So let's keep in mind, let's keep that whole mindset here together and make sure that we realize 7 minutes out of 40 minutes, they were together. But, this is not like they're running it for 30 minutes out of 30, out of a 40-minute game. So it's just to see, hey, how are they going to hedge on this? How are they going to guard this? Is it going to work? And we have seen it work, even though a lot of people don't realize it. There are a lot of people who won't admit it. We have seen this offense come out to some decent starts here. Today, notwithstanding, they kind of came out a little bit stagnant on offense, and Alabama came out hot. Interesting when it comes to coaching, though. I saw a tweet, and I can't remember who it was, and I don't remember, I want to give credit where it's due, but someone said, hey, Nate Oates, with all this foul trouble, he's actually in a position where he has to coach today, which is right where they want him. So now, of course, that's a little bit of a facetious statement, right? A little bit of smart ass in that statement, right? And that's what Twitter's all about, right? But the bottom line is, when you put Alabama in a position where they are fouling excessively, they have to foul in order to survive. That really takes away their advantage. Their advantage is that athleticism. Is getting those players out there that can run, they can jump, they can shoot, and they can do what they need to do. But if you are in a position where you can impose your will, like with a Zack Edey, like with a Braden Smith, a 2-on-5 circumstance right there, play two-man hero ball almost. They can impose their will, rack up those fouls, and all of a sudden, hey, Purdue's walking away with a victory. That's really important and really impressive by Painter.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think we need to give him his props here today for sure.
Sure.
Blake Widmer, he said Edey sat out 2 minutes in the second half, so charts off a little bit. I don't think he did. I think the only time he sat in that second half was those last few seconds where the rotation was all sorts of jumble because offense, defense, all that stuff. If you looking at the box score, he did play. Braden and Edey both played all 20 minutes in the second half.
Right.
And like I said, Edey sat for maybe 15 seconds. So, we can go.
I think he actually, sorry to interrupt, so I didn't mean to talk over you there. He actually sat for about 15 seconds leading into one of the media timeouts. And then they gave him the media timeout, and he came back in. So, you gotta give Zack Edey a bit of props here because he played a Herculean effort on maybe some tired legs there from up there in Canada.
Yeah, for sure. I actually wanted to hit on that because here I'll pull up the actual stats here. Here they are. Does that show minutes? It does. Braden at 37, Edey with 36, and then balanced the rest of the way. But specifically, I don't think Braden and Edey looked tired down the end of the stretch.
I agree with you.
We saw it in Maui when it was their third game in 3 days that they were exhausted in that second half. It just didn't look like that today, and they needed all the legs that they could get.
These are 20-something-year-old kids. Me at pushing 40, I couldn't do that. I could play maybe one hockey turns worth of college basketball, and then I'd give up 10 points to my opponent, and I would be absolutely benched for the rest of my career. But these folks are young, right? And so they're the types of kids that can run up and down that floor. They got high metabolism, and for 40 minutes in a game that means a lot, nationally televised, they're going to give everything they have. Now, it's still it remains to be seen if they can maintain that for a 35 game season or whatever it is, because last year these players started to wear out because they had a lot of mileage on them. But this early in the season against this team, hell yeah, I don't blame those kids for being out there. Their adrenaline's going. They're in a game that is almost like a Final Four feel, or an Elite Eight feel, or whatever it is. These are two teams that are really duking it out. Man, that had to have been a lot of fun for those players.
Yeah, 100%. Before we get into the rest, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, BJ Rule. Purdue graduate and current Lafayette resident, BJ Rule has close to 15 years experience helping buyers, sellers, and real estate investors in Lafayette and surrounding areas. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, give BJ a call or text to set up an appointment to see how he can help you accomplish your goals. Your home will likely be the most expensive purchase of your life. Have the experts with Rainey & Company at Keller Williams on your side and let BJ help you navigate this process. Call 317-345-4600. So thank you to BJ Rule for helping sponsor this show. Anybody that's in here, we're about 25 minutes in. Please, hit the like button. It does, just doing that helps us a ton. Also on our Twitter at Boilers and Stands, we do have some merch out if you are interested in that as well. I believe that is our pinned tweet on our Twitter account. So we gone through Smith and Edey in a bit of abundance as it should because of what they did today. I'll pull up the stats here. There they are. I'll quickly glance through some of the big overall stats. Obviously, Bam was 19 for 46 from 3. They were 10 of 18 from 2. Purdue 24 of 28 from the line, only 9 turnovers. Rebounding, Purdue wins 37-32. So although it wasn't like a dominant performance, Purdue still wins that category. And then 34 to 20 points in the paint. I think those are some of just the key ones in general. Looking at this, is there anything that stands out to you from a player or team perspective in terms of kind of the numbers?
Yeah, the numbers that really shocks me, and I know Kraig Bowers is texting us some comments from the post-game interviews. Matt Painter talked about how unusual it was for a team to win when they only hit 19, or when they hit 19 threes. That's incredible. So just to overcome an onslaught where someone is hitting 19 threes in one game. I can't remember. I remember a game against Wisconsin maybe 7 years ago where Purdue hit 19 or 20 threes, but I don't even know if it was actually that much. But that amount of threes is an incredible feat for a team, and it's even more incredible to defeat a team that has hit that many threes. So that one really stands out to me.
Yeah, as it should. Like that is an insane number. I'm sure.
Right.
I don't know if Cobra Stats is in here, but do we know what, like, if he is, can you go see what the most how do I want to phrase this? The most opposing threes hit, like for opposing team against Purdue, where Purdue has still won the game, because hitting this many, it's got to be up there if it's not number one, at least in the more recent years for sure. Yeah, I think that's a huge one, and we talked about it. We can talk about it a little bit too. Just I thought Jones had a really, really tough matchup. Like,
Sears
is really good, and it's just tough because Sears was so good on ball that the couple of player screens, right? Jones just gets caught on the screen because he's trying to look to take away that direct handoff. He just got stuck a bit. He really just got stuck a bit on screens, I thought, and the baseline out of bounds corner 3, about 5 minutes left. Jones just gets caught again on a screen, and now Sears has a wide open 3. And then the rest of the threes in general, like when I was kind of like rewatching, I was doing my thread as it went along. Like there was some in the half court where it's just like drive kick. There had to been 4 or 5 where it's offensive rebound and Purdue's just scrambling and they get a wide open 3 off of that. I thought there was a few of those where it's just these kind of not crazy plays, because Purdue wasn't rebounding the best, right? They could help themselves out if they just grab the ball. But just a couple times where it was just like, man, that's just kind of chaotic, and Bama's really good at chaos. That's where they thrive. Getting out in transition a couple times, where especially when Edey's kind of the one getting back late, now he's running to the paint. Bama hits a trail 3. I think, like, in general, the half court, in terms of the driving kick, like, I don't think it killed Purdue as much as maybe it seemed, because there's rules that Purdue has to defense, and if they didn't help, there's a couple, especially when Edey was out, it's like if you don't help at the rim, they are getting a wide open layup. And especially in the first half, maybe in the second half you adjust because you're like, okay, they're just hitting every 3. But in general, I just thought, not that it was fluky, it was just that Bama did a good job of getting shots in the chaos, and that's something you can't always defend against, I think.
That is true. But I'm in a group chat with my ISC folks here, and one of the things we were talking about was with Dave Kovich, who's one of our main guys here at ISC. He's our editor, and he was making sure that he was kind of pointing some things out, which helps me with my articles, helps us with some of our conversation points. Is that there were an awful lot of open threes too. And so your chaos point is absolutely correct. There was a couple times where the offensive boards are being pulled down and yanked down by Alabama and moved around the key, and all of a sudden, boom, they're hitting a 3. But also, Did you see some of that motion that they were setting up for Sears? It was incredible. He did a, kind of a, you're better with the terminology than me, but essentially kind of floated one direction and then hard cut back the opposite direction. All of a sudden, boom, he's wide open for a three, and he drilled it. So he had 35 points himself. So I think we need to acknowledge that, how good of a ball player he was today. He's one of those deals where he's hitting these dagger threes and he's shushing the crowd, right? He's got that attitude about him, man. He's got that moxie. More power to him. That dude can play ball. And he played out of his mind today. He hit 8 threes. He was just all over the court. But the motion and the offense that Nate Oates generates in order to get these open threes, I got to tip my cap to that. It's a good look for him. And like we've already said early in the show, 90% of their shots are either layups, dunks, or threes. That's pretty good.
Yep. Yeah. And there was a couple of mid-ranges and that Bama took, and I'm pretty sure that it was Sears, and he probably got yelled at a bit for them. Looking at the stats too, kind of hitting on the next player. I think I want to go to Colvin. I think I want to go to Colvin.
Yes.
5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 for 2 from overall. He had the 1 drive, which is good to see because he's had like 5 2-point attempts this entire year. It's felt like, but more importantly than everything, Colvin is 5 for 11 from 2 and 12 for 26 from 3. More importantly than anything, this was the first game all year that I was like, oh, I actually kind of trust Colvin's defense. Like I've been very hard on his defense for anybody that's listened, and I know that. I think not including today, he was probably the worst defender in the rotation in my opinion. But today he was great. They still had a couple breakdowns. Everybody has those. Whatever, you can live with 1 or 2. But today he was great. I thought he did a good job, kind of being where he's supposed to be. There was a couple rotations that he made that was really good. Didn't force his threes because that was sometimes he kind of comes in and just purely chucks, and he's such a good shooter that it's okay. But I just thought his decision making, his defense was really, really good today. And there was a reason that Painter went to him down the stretch. And like this, when we talk about Colvin is his upside, like I think some of it started really, really showing today.
Yeah, he's a freshman, right? So he's fresh out of high school, and he's kind of just growing into this role. And we are seeing his development just kind of bloom right in front of our eyes. And, I noticed that he's kind of in the stretch, and I'm going, man, Colvin's out there. Man, Colvin hit a nasty 3. Man, look at that. He's doing everything. He actually had a steal down the stretch. So he did a really nice job today. And it's good to see Matt Painter giving a longer leash to some of these players. Sorry, I just dropped my phone. Giving these longer leash to these players that are just kind of learning their crafts, kind of getting their feet underneath them. We've seen it with Heidi. Heidi's been in there quite a bit too. Colvin has kind of a higher impact on the offensive end because he hits these threes. He's had a couple nice dunks throughout the season. But and of course, the Purdue fans are just way behind him. But it's good to see Heidi put himself in position, and Colvin, to be able to grow and foster where they're at. And it's only a matter of time before these guys may end up being, I don't want to say necessarily a starter, but some key contributors going down the stretch.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think out of that 3 spot between Lawyer, Heidi, Morton, and Colvin, Purdue just needs 1 or 2 of them to be on per game, right? It's going to be some games Lawyer's going to drop 27, other games he's going to have them like this where he can't really play down the stretch. Colvin, I think Colvin's and Heidi are both going to continue to grow. Morton's, what you're going to get. Good defense.
Right.
He can move the ball offensively. You just have to balance the movements of his, he's able to move the ball, but also teams are going to completely ignore him. So you have to balance that. But really, really good defense for Morton. And so now if, as the season goes on, Painter is going to have 4 guys that he can go to at any point. It's just depending on who's on and what's the matchup. Like it really is. And that's my thing. That was my thing in Maui. That was my thing. Just going to be for at least what is Purdue? We're 10 games in, 9 games in, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like there's 20 more regular season games, more or less, for the next, even 10 or so.
Sure.
Like don't give up on one guy because they had a bad game. Like Lawyer had a bad game today. He's, that's fine. Painter took him out. That was great. A good call of taking him out. Colvin had a good game. If he has a bad game against Arizona, don't be like, hey, he can't play, whatever. Like, all these guys can play and all these guys can bring different things. It's just about finding who's on at the right moment.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's what it is for me. It's just, who is the best matchup for that game, and
Sure.
any one of them can do it 100%.
Right, you got to keep this in mind. Christopher Thies, diehard fans, listen up. That is an excellent point. That's awesome. Thank you. So I am a member of the Facebook group Boiler Diehards, right? I think we all are. Anyone who's listening to the show probably is, right? And there are some nasty folk in that Facebook group. Some people who are way smarter than Matt Painter, who are way smarter than Coach Krzyzewski. They are the most intelligent basketball coaches in the history of the imagination of what could possibly be the future of basketball. And what they don't understand is, hey, why aren't we benching Kaufman-Renn? Why aren't we benching Lawyer? I've seen that comment in our chats already. What is your concern about Lawyer? Is he need to be benched? Lawyer had 27 points a couple games ago.
Yep.
I mean, let's be real here, folks. And we need people with experience. This Boilermaker team needs all the backcourt efficiency that they can get. Fletcher Lawyer provides a lot of benefits for this team. He provides a lot of ball handling and relaxation. Okay, did he have a nasty turnover right there at the end to make it a little bit closer than it needed to be? Yeah, he did. The ball kind of slipped through his hands, and it was a steal. Sure. Who else had some nasty turnovers throughout the game? It's just about everybody. It happens. This is the game of basketball, and sometimes the ball's going to slip through your hands. Sometimes you're going to dribble off your foot, and that's okay. But when it comes up to your time to show up and hit 27 points, for your time to show up and get that defensive stop or whatever it is, and I'm not saying just specifically Fletcher Lawyer, but any team, Matt Painter knows what he's doing. Okay, and we may get frustrated with them, and that's all right as fans. But there's people here who are kind of being nasty on the Facebook groups, on the Twitter machine, all of this stuff. The bottom line is, I am nowhere near as smart as Matt Painter. I'm nowhere near as smart as Joe Jackson or Kraig Bowers. I think Greg and I are probably pretty even. When Greg Braggs is on the show, he's a buddy of mine, so I can say that. People, what is the old saying, man? Opinions are like rear ends. Everybody's got one, and most of them stink, right? Okay, so that's a cliche. But the bottom line is, we're doing okay. Life is good. Can we improve? Yes, there's always a million ways to improve, and we need to do that. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater over a little bit of hiccups here and there.
Yep, 100%. Like, we can get to, even more next. He played, 12 minutes, no shot attempts and assists. Like, you look at Ethan Morton's stat line, right? It is 1 assist in 12 minutes. But that doesn't tell who Ethan Morton is, right? That's never been who Ethan Morton is. Even last year. It is a guy that can command the defense especially when Edey's off the floor. Like, Morton's the guy that can kind of direct people. I think Morton's almost never going to make a mistake in terms of the defensive scheme. He might get burned one-on-one because he's a good defender, I think, individually. Sure. But, there are times he slides, whatever. He's going to get cooked a little bit. But, Painter has a senior in Ethan Morton who's everything seems like he's accepted his role, right? Ethan Morton last year was, a 25-minute-a-game guy? Yeah. And all offseason, everybody's like, Ethan Morton can't play. Ethan Morton can't play. And when I say everybody, I'm talking more outside, not Purdue specific, Purdue fan specific. But, now he's in this 10 to 15-minute role as a senior. He was a top 100 guy, if I remember correctly. He's accepted his role. He is still 100% one of the leaders of this team. When he is on the floor, he can make really good plays defensively. Offensively, we know who he is. Defenses are going to sag off of him. If he knocks down a three, great. If he can just continue to move the ball and find ways to make defenses pay a little bit for giving him that much space, whether it be drive and dump it off to Edey or whatever. But I thought he was really, really good today. 1 assist, is the only stat he recorded, but that does not tell who Ethan Morton is.
No, his defensive presence is an important part to this team, especially when you've got one player going off for 35 points and another player, or 7 other players bombing from 3-point line. You need someone like Ethan Morton to kind of get into somebody and kind of get in their face and make sure they're kind of slowing down on offense, getting off that step a little bit. The most important stat right now for Ethan Morton today in his 12 minutes was 0 turnovers. So yep. Purdue is only had 9 turnovers for the game, and what did they end up winning by? Gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head. 6 points. Okay, sure. 1 or 2 extra turnovers with the way Alabama was shooting threes. That's the difference in the game. Right? Okay, so maybe 3 extra turnovers this game. Let's be fair. Okay, so 2 threes and a free throw or whatever. But the bottom line is that his steadiness as a leader, as an elder statesman for this team, that calming effect. People don't recognize that there is a calming effect for a senior leader to be out there on the floor. For someone like Ethan Morton, yes, he struggles and isn't as big of an offensive threat as a lot of us hoped he would be. Only showed 1 assist today. Okay, that's fine. All right, that's fine. But what he didn't do, he didn't make mistakes. And that is what kills this Purdue team. We've seen it from the Northwestern game. We've seen it in games last year. It's Purdue's self-inflicted mistakes that hurt him, and he didn't make any. And he gave us 12 minutes of tough hustle, intense defense, and that's exactly what you want from someone like Ethan Morton.
Yep, 100%. That's exactly who Ethan Morton is, and he's bought into his role. And I've kind of said all year, I think that 10 to 15 minute a game role is really good for him. He doesn't, it's not long enough that teams can really figure out when other teams are on defense and produce an offense of okay, how do we take advantage of this? He can come in and just give really hard energy, hard hustle for 5-minute spurts, and life is good.
Right.
I guess we can hit on the last of the kind of wing group in Camden Heide. He only plays 8 minutes, has that 1 jumper, also 2 boards to go along with it. I did not realize he picked up 4 fouls. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if there's as much to say. I don't know if there's as much to say about Heide. What you got from him?
What I noticed from him was on his bucket, he looked extremely confident shooting it. I think he wanted to shoot a 3, but he was about a foot and a half inside the 3-point line. But he was no hesitation. He just stepped right to it. He hit his shot. He had a couple rebounds. I think he had 2 rebounds. But Heide brings something to this team similar to Morton, that kind of athletic ability. And 4 fouls, okay. That's fine. If he's going to pick up 4 fouls right now, this early in his career, make them count. Do what you need to do. Make those fouls count. Be a menace out there on defense, which he's trying to do. He's not quite there yet. He's still learning the system, but he's trying to be a menace. And when you're 6'8" and you can jump 40 inches or whatever he can, he's got those long arms. Yeah, all right. You're gonna be a little bit of a terror on defense. So he's doing exactly what Matt Painter needs him to do right now, and as he continues to improve, just like how Miles Colvin continues to improve, he's going to be just fine.
Yep, 100%. Him and Colvin being together as this. I know Heidi's a redshirt freshman, but freshman in terms of on-court experience.
Sure,
it's fun because they, Colvin's more of a 2/3, and Heidi's more of a 3/4 in terms of positioning, in my opinion, but. They just I think they complement each other pretty well too. Both athletic, sure. But Heidi's can be this kind of bigger guy that, can be more in the physical matchups. Colvin's, more of a little guard oriented. Both can shoot the ball well. I mean, very, very limited volume. So, but Heidi's 5 for 9 from 3 and Colvin's 12 for 26 from 3 right now.
Sure.
Heidi's 8 for 14 from 2 and Colvin's 5 for 11. These are guys that can still just come in, make good plays. It's all about the defense. And I think, Colvin made really good plays defensively today, and that's why you saw him get the longer stints. The last couple of games, it's been Heide that's Painter's trusted defensively.
Mm-hmm.
When Lance Jones falls out at Northwestern, it's Heide that comes in and guards Boo Buie.
Right.
So there's just that too. I think Painter likes the upside defensively for Heide. I forgot about this comment. I meant to bring it up when we were talking about Braden. Did Smith actually, this from JB, did Smith actually step in the lane on that violation? I know he'd been trying to distract the shooter with that all game. Maybe he faked out the official too. I don't think he stepped. I think what they called was just that what he did is illegal, whereas like he like was jabbing pretty much. I don't know the actual rule on that.
Yeah, is that illegal?
I think that's what they was called. I don't actually know. I think it happened so much that the refs were just kind of like, I think we have to call this. It was more of like a we just I think have to do this.
It seemed to be effective. Well, when I noticed him doing that, there seemed to be missed free throws that came from it. So obviously you can't tell. I'm not sure if JB is whom I think he is, another media guy. A guy that I used to work with at a different Purdue blog, but if not, if it's a different JB, then that's fine. But when you see the camera angle from behind someone, and if you're a media guy, you would know that it's hard to tell exactly what's happening in front of that individual. And there is no reverse cam or overhead cam in that 100-year-old Coca-Cola Center in Toronto, so we'll never really know for sure. I suspect that he did not actually hit the lane, and that he was actually annoying the officials and annoying the other folks on the floor. But it's definitely a circumstance where okay, it's unfortunate that it was called. I think it did lead to a made free throw following, and so that's frustrating. But it is what it is. Purdue still won by 6. Purdue still covered. So it all turned out okay in the end.
100%. From Jimmy Peppers, there's a two-parter for anybody that's watching. Purdue continues to get the absolute best teams in the country's best shot. Tennessee's tough play, Marquette's guard play, Alabama's 3-ball, and so on, and still finding a way to win. That is true. Like, Purdue is going to be one of the most tested teams come March. I only hesitate saying that a little bit now because of the Big Ten just being down this year in general.
Sure. Yep.
Illinois, Wisconsin, Ohio State have signs of being a good team, but it's just there's not quite that elite team in Purdue's tier as of right now for sure. But in general, like Purdue played, I'm looking at their KenPom right now. They played the 5th, 9th, 10th, and 14th best teams in the country already. They play the 4th best next week. They have played only 3 games against teams ranked below 55.
Right.
And that was Samford, Morehead State, Texas Southern. They only have like 2 more like that. This is just a team that's going to be continue tested. And like we saw in the Northwestern game, that was by far Northwestern best game of the year. And they needed every bit of it to be Purdue. That doesn't take away from their win because credit to them. They won. And Purdue made some mistakes Purdue made some mistakes that they shouldn't have made. And if they don't, then they walk out of there with the win and they're undefeated right now. But it's going to take teams' best shot combined with Purdue having an off game right now to beat them, except maybe Arizona, who's the other team, obviously, that they're a team that can keep up with them just in general.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's spot on. So we're 45 minutes into the show. Kraig is maybe on in about 10-ish or so, and he's going to talk more about the press conference and just Toronto in general, and then also his takeaways from the game. So we're going to figure out a way to get through these 10 minutes. If you have comments, questions, leave them in the chat right now. We have some time to get to them.
Sure.
Also, if you guys are enjoying, I know I've said this a couple times, but it really just does help if you can just simply hit the like button. It really does just help us a lot. You got to do what you got to do to fight the algorithm, and hitting the like button is one way you guys can do that to help us. That is completely free. So yeah, I think in terms of players, the only players we probably haven't hit on are Gillis and First and TKR, like kind of the 4 spot.
Right.
I'll pull up the stats here. TKR only plays 10 minutes, 5 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. Gillis, in 14 minutes, he had 5 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, no turnovers because he's had a case kind of Butterfingers. First in 20 minutes, 2 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and a turnover. So I guess we'll start with TKR because he didn't play as much. The first 3 minutes, I was like, man, TKR is looking really good. And then it was just, I think when you look at his plus minus, because I'm not a fan of individual plus minus for one game, I don't think it tells the whole story. He's a minus 20. That is significant. He was in during that stretch where Alabama Alabama started 5 for 5 from 3. Like TKR was into that stretch and then got taken out. So that hurts that. It just wasn't the game for him with how fast and physical and athletic Alabama is. And I thought the first 2 to 3 minutes he played well. He knocks down the 3 because Bama gives him space. I think he found Edey once in the post on the high-low action. I think there's signs of improvement for that pairing. like you already mentioned earlier, it only played 7 minutes together this game, and the Edey TKR pairing. I mean, so Painter's going away from it too. But I don't know if there's anything else. Like it just wasn't his game. It's as simple as that, I think.
Well, right. And it's interesting because I think Trey Kaufman-Renn is every bit deserving of the multiple schools that gave him scholarships coming out of high school. This is a guy who turned down North Carolina to come to Purdue. Right. And so this is a very talented individual. He is, in my opinion, a natural 5. And, unfortunately, he's a very skilled natural 5 at 6'9", 6'10", or is he even taller than that?
No, he's like 6'9".
6'9", 6'10". So he's similar to Travion Williams. All right. That height wise. So he's an excellent ball player. The only problem is he's kind of that gritty, in the lane, back to the basket type ball player, which does not mesh well with Zack Edey, or at least theoretically would not mesh well with Zack Edey. And what we saw here at the beginning of the game was who hit the first shot of the game. Trey Kaufman-Renn hit the first shot of the game. He hit a 3 right at the top of the key. And you go, all right, this guy's got it. He's got some game to him. It's just a matter of, man, it's tough that he has to share the floor with Zack Edey. Because we've seen glimpses, especially last year, when Edey was on the bench or we had an opportunity to feature Trey Kaufman-Renn, and he would take over a game and he'd score 10, 15 points, just kind of boom, boom. And you're like, oh, wow. Good for you. So I think today that was a bad matchup. Everybody was a stretch. It was a stretch 5, stretch 4, stretch 3, stretch 2, stretch 1, whatever. We're getting into some goofy statements here, right? But the bottom line is it's a tough matchup for a stretch 4 and Trey Kaufman-Renn to take care of that defensively.
Yeah, I think that's all there is with TKR for this one. We'll move on to Gillis. Like I said, 5 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Knocks down a big 3. I believe that, if I remember right, that came late-ish in the second half. Or it definitely came in the second half. I forget exactly when, but good show. I think it was a solid showing from him. Like with Gillis, I don't know if there's too much to talk about. It's for right now. He comes in, he knocks down 3s, he gives you some physicality. 3 assists, like he moves the ball well. I think he's a good post-entry passer. He can find Edey down low. Yeah. I don't know if I have honestly too much with Gillis. It's just kind of this. It's kind of like that's who Gillis is.
Well, what is there to say? I'd love to give him more minutes because he's got that attitude. He's got that killer instinct in him, right? But I will say this much. I believe it was Gillis's 3 that gave Purdue their first lead, if I remember correctly.
That feels right. Yeah.
That feels right. It feels right. Okay, so it's a whirlwind and I'm screaming at the television. I'm pissing my wife off and my dog off and everybody because that's what I do. And, the bottom line is that he's looking for a shot when it's open. It's there, and he's hitting it, and that's important. The leadership and the kind of calm, cool as a cucumber type when he hits that 3 to push Purdue over the edge, and Purdue never looked back from that point.
Yep. Yeah, that's just what he does. And then the last guy we can hit on is First, and I'm saving him for last because I think this was the first matchup. In the first half, me and Kraig were texting a little bit. It was just like, I think First is the guy that has to close. And then if we go to the rotation, First plays the last 6 minutes or so of the game. Mm-hmm. I think just because of what he can do defensively, when Alabama has Grant Nelson at the 4, who's kind of this, First type body build, but can shoot the 3, can get to the rim, can kind of handle the ball. First was needed defensively. He's a guy that he's the most versatile defender out of the bigs for sure. He's the one that you trust most on the interior combined with the post. And I think that's kind of showed today is there's obviously the offensive stuff of you just want him to be stronger at the rim and you wish he would be stronger at the rim. And he had 1 or 2 blocked today, but
sure.
In general, I think you just needed him defensively and he did a really, really good job defensively.
He did, and one thing I wanted to touch on is that bogus offensive foul that he got when Purdue was going to take the lead there. He had a nice spin move, and it got wiped off, and I got really frustrated at that point. Even though Purdue had been dominating the foul totals to that point, that one frustrated me.
Yep. So we finally are joined. He's blessing us with his presence. Kraig Bowers, international traveler, flight misser, a little bit of everything from Kraig, but he is there in Toronto, was at the game doing coverage for us at Boilers in the Stands. Kraig, we kind of have, we've talked through pretty much every player at this point. We talked about Painter. This actually timed out really, really well. So want to throw it to you. We'll give you kind of the runway to talk about a couple things you want to talk about. And then also, you were at the postgame pressers if we want to hit on that. And then maybe just some general stuff from being in Toronto for this game.
Yeah, so that's a lot. I will not go on.
We'll interact with you too. Right now, just give us a couple key takeaways from the game for you.
Well, one, I'll just kind of go off of our name here in terms of being Boilers in the Stands, because I want to say how impressive the fan show out was here. I know a few people said, man, it looks kind of empty in there with the cameras. Both ends of the arena, because of where the court is positioned kind of in the center of that hockey arena. If they were paying into the ends, baselines, often that looks empty there because of where they had the fan seating. But on the Purdue side of the seating, that was pretty much full. There wasn't a lot of empty seats there. And then in the Alabama section, Purdue had purchased up a whole lot of the tickets that were in that section too. And when they went on the run, when Braden hit a couple of those threes, it got loud in there. And it was noticeable. One of the things that got asked of Nate Oates was when he figured out that they were essentially playing a road game, which, believe me, that person had never been in Mackey if they thought that. But nonetheless, he just laughed and said, as soon as I stepped foot in the arena and saw all the black and gold. So it mattered. Painter talked about it too a little bit, just about how the fan kind of got behind him and pushed him when they started to make their run a couple of different times. So definitely, I just want to give a shout out to all the fans that traveled. I've gotten to interact with a whole bunch of them on this trip, on the flight up here, even though it was the wrong flight. Walking through customs, somebody recognized me and we interacted real quick there and whatnot. And then in the arena, it was just amazing, the show out that was there and the love that was there for Zack. I know his mom purchased a huge group and brought a whole bunch of people, but then there's a friend of the family that comes down to Mackey sometimes, and I think they said he had like 50 or 60 bought up for a group that came to see Zack. And most of the post-game press conference for players was aimed at Zack and talking about him playing in Canada. And you could really tell it meant something for him. Because as he said, nobody in Toronto has seen him play basketball since his sophomore year of high school. Unless they traveled down to Mackey or something like that. So it meant a lot to him. And you could even see it when they were singing the Canadian national anthem pregame, just kind of looking at Zack, him soaking that in and taking that in, being able to have his Purdue teammates there in that environment for him. So I thought that was just pretty special, and he showed out and had a monster game. So
yeah, 35 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 12 of 20 from the field, 11 for 11 from the line. And on top of that, let's see. Yeah, Alabama took like 11 shots in the paint today, out of their 64. Obviously 46 threes will do that, but was there anything, did you just kind of tell before the game? I don't know, could you, besides, you mentioned the anthem and that, could you tell before the game though, besides that, just like in warm-up lines, was there anything different with Edey, or is he still the pretty stoic, just business as usual?
Yeah, he was real stoic. I mean, the one special moment where maybe you really saw something was during the game after he hits a layup and it gets fouled for an and one. And I tweeted it earlier, but I'm not going to remember his name now. But there's a Toronto Raptors super fan that everybody in Canada knows that follows basketball, that is always sitting front row for all the Raptors games. And that guy stood up and was kind of screaming when Zack got his and one, and Zack was screaming right back in his face. And they had a really fun little interaction there. And that was probably the nicest, like, Canadian moment during the game of just like these two really recognizable forces in Canadian basketball having that moment together right underneath the rim. So that was real cool. You talking about the 3-pointers. I don't know that was as much in terms of what Purdue was giving them. As Nate Oates said in the post-game press conference, that they just came into the game thinking the only way they were going to win is if they just went off from three, and that was completely by design, that he wanted them shooting as many threes as they could possibly get. Whether they were completely clean looks or not, that's just how they thought they could win the game.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I was watching some of your buddies on the Field of 68, who you folks have interacted with here recently, and they were pretty much saying the only way for Alabama to really keep this close is if they have a Herculean effort from three, and then you just kind of hold on to Zack Edey and pray. And that's pretty much what happened here. They let Zack Edey do his thing. He scored his 35 points, and they just bombed away from three. And for 3/4 of this game, it worked out real well for him. That last quarter, though, that's the one that mattered.
Yeah, for sure. If anybody wants to know if Painter was happy in the post-game press conference, I would not call it a joyful Matt Painter.
Oh,
there was definitely issues that happened throughout the game that he was pretty focused on in terms of, I think at one time he said something like, when Bama started to flare that screen and they got like two or three wide open threes, Sears did in a row. And he was like, we didn't practice it really leading up to the game because Bama had never shown that. It was something kind of brand new from what they'd seen from all the video. But he's like, my God, we acted like it was alien and we'd never seen a flare screen before and nobody knew what to do on how to defend it. And, he obviously was happy about the turnover number being under 10. I think that was something, I don't know if you guys really talked about that or not, but, keeping that to 9 against a super athletic team like this, had they had 14, 15 turnovers, there's no way they win this game. Painter mentioned just how unusual it is, one, to only be down 2 when a team hits 13 threes going into half, and then to win a game when somebody hits 19 threes. And how improbable that was. And if Zach doesn't go perfect from the line tonight, they probably don't win this game. So, but certainly I think he was happy about the low amount of turnovers. He spoke very, very highly of Braden Smith and just his decision-making and his confidence in terms of his shot making, as well as Zach, obviously, in terms of the type of game he had. I guess the only really thing he went on, positively about from this game outside of that was the stretch of minutes that Colvin came in and gave tonight. Offensively, he hits that three. He showed really for the first time his ability to take somebody off the dribble and shoot that little 4 or 5 footer that he hit. Would like to see that more. I hope that's like, this is my intro. I'm going to show you that I can consistently do this over and over again after this when I get my minutes. But I think he was happy from the way he spoke, was happy about the minutes he got out of Colvin and even Heidi to some degree, even though he got 4 fouls in 8 minutes. I don't know that I've even had 4 fouls in 8 minutes, but he did show some things positively defensively in that stretch too. And he hit the one jump shot that he did get to take. Obviously, I'm sure you guys have hit on this. Not a banner night for Fletcher or Lance, either one. Lance had a couple steals, was good defensively one-on-one, but kept on kind of getting burnt trying to get through screens and that type of stuff. So, but yeah.
Chris Rode says, I know it was one shot, but I thought Miles 3 was a key spot to take the momentum back there towards the end of the game. And Braden Smith would take him over any point guard in America. Love him. Hitting on the Colvin part first. Yeah, I think that was a huge 3. That was also there was 3 parts to it. There was one, Edey just being a monster and just managing to get fingers on the ball to not allow easy Alabama rebounds. 2, Gillis grabs it and just throws this like behind. It's like a Braden Smith behind the head pass right on the money to Colvin. And then obviously Colvin drills it. That was a big swing for sure. And, we talked about Colvin, that it was defense. Like I thought this was his best defensive game so far. And that was a big reason why he could stay on the floor then is, he he doesn't have to hit 5 threes to stay on the floor. If he plays good defense, then he's going to be in the flow of the offense, and then he's going to get good shots like that. Ability to take guys off the dribble, like you said too. Let's hit on the second part of this question or this comment real quick. He goes, and Braden Smith would take him over any point guard in America. I don't know, like I'm not all familiar with where exactly he should rank in terms of in the country and point guard rankings. I know that the list of point guards you rather have than Braden Smith is very slowly like dwindling, right? It's becoming less and less little by little. And, for a guy like Kraig has mentioned, was not ranked in the top 25 in the Big Ten as players coming into the season. He's looking very much like one of the elite point guards in the country. He can do basically anything you want. I don't know if either of you really have comments on it, but it's fun to see the Braden Smith growth.
Well, I mean, obviously the confidence in his shot making, and I was hoping to ask him in the post-game press conference, like kind of how he decides. Some games he affects it completely through distributing the ball and rebounding, and then he may get a handful of shots up. And then other games, he's like, all right, I'm going to go put up 20. And I wanted to ask him just kind of like, how does that go for you? Is it your confidence in how your first shot's going down? Is it about kind of what you're getting from everybody else in any given game? Or is it just a matter of what the defense is giving you? And I didn't get a chance to ask him that question because there were like 9 questions in a row for Zack from all the Canadian press here, but which is great. Like they should have that moment because they don't get it very often. But it's interesting. I think for me, the scoring was really important, obviously. But the thing that we've kind of focused on in different points where Braden has struggled is down the stretch in close games against athletic teams, not turning the ball over, because the Northwestern game, FDU last year, that sort of stuff, we saw him make some questionable decisions, and there were none of those tonight in that stretch. There's maybe one shot I was like, did you really need to take that shot? But like you want Braden hunting for his shot, but there was no cutesy passes or anything like that down the stretch. He just took care of the ball, made sure the right people got the ball, or he took the shot himself. And I thought that was showing some growth in his game in a tight situation down the stretch against a super athletic long team.
To the point that you're making, and that Jeff Parks just put out there on our comment section here, there are certain outlets that say they're still worried about Braden Smith at crunch time in a close game situation or a close game that is worrisome. Here's the thing: Braden Smith has to learn somehow. Right? Yeah. You don't all of a sudden become the most clutch basketball player in the history. You're not all of a sudden Reggie Miller or Michael Jordan or something at the very end of the game because you didn't fail. You got to learn how to do these things. And did he struggle in Fairleigh Dickinson? Sure. Did he struggle against Northwestern last week? Sure. Yeah, but he's learning. And like we said earlier, there is only one turnover that he had this day, and he had a kind of a nasty shot there towards the end of the game that made us all kind of do the forehead slap. But the bottom line is, it worked. We're okay. We're doing okay. And just be happy when something good happens to your team. And that's where I'm at with the world, at least right now.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about some of the other outlets and questioning some of those things, we as Purdue fans have to make sure that we aren't looking at it from just our silo. And there's oftentimes reasons some of those questions get asked because it's happened in the past at certain times. So it doesn't mean they don't like the player or whatever. It's they're going to ask those questions as reporters. And like you said, they got to grow through experience. I remember there was a video montage of either Kobe or Michael of all the game winning shots they missed. Before they still miss some later, but before they turn into that dude where they would consistently hit those a lot of times. So
yeah, 100%. We don't have to go crazy long more with this. Kraig, I'm going to throw it to you though. If there's like anything that you like in terms of the on-court play from the team standpoint that you really want to kind of mention, shout out, whatever, talk about.
I think I've hit on most of them. Winning the turnover battle to me in a game like this is just so huge. Can't reiterate that enough. And then Zack just having a monster game, and Braden making all the right decisions and having confidence in his shot. Those to me are the main things. It was interesting from a negative side, I guess, a little bit. It was interesting. It was interesting to watch Purdue, since they didn't dominate the boards, try to adjust to a team that's shooting that many threes and just all those long rebounds that come off of that. And like, how do you rebound differently? I would have liked to have asked Painter about that too. Just like, how do you approach rebounding differently in that type of situation when they're literally, I think they made more threes than they took twos in the game. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Alabama did. So, I mean, that's just odd.
19 threes made and 18 twos attempted.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So no, I don't really have too much more on the game because, like I said, I don't really know what you guys have already talked about and everything else. But Toronto's an awesome city, man. Toronto's an awesome city. It's my first time here. If you've ever thought about visiting and you haven't, I would highly recommend at this point.
Yeah, let's hit on some of that. Obviously, this is Zack Edey's homecoming. We've mentioned it a little bit, but we were kind of waiting for you to really dive into that. What was that like there? Just obviously, we know the fans and they bought all the tickets, and that part was cool. Was there other stuff going on, or was it not too much outside of the basketball game itself for Edey?
There actually wasn't. I thought there would be kind of a lot of stuff. There wasn't even signage on the Coca-Cola arena. There were no like posters about the game or anything. I really expected something big, and there wasn't like a pre-Hall of Fame Classic press conference for the coaches. There wasn't any signage up, or somebody told me like one of the parking attendants was like, "So what's going on here today?" Like, I thought they'd make a lot bigger deal about it inside the arena. It was that like when they showed Julia and Zack together at the end of the game and they put these shirts on, everybody went nuts in the place. And inside the arena, it was special, but there wasn't a lot extra around it. Zack did talk about, somebody asked him about how important this was for Purdue to schedule this type of game from an NIL standpoint. And he said he was mostly worried about coming home, winning the game, playing in front of his friends and family, that type of stuff. But he did say it was really cool for Purdue to schedule this game. I don't know what his personal schedule was around this. But like, if you don't know, like Zack said in the post-game press conference, really the only thing he can earn money from in the U.S. on a student visa is jersey sales, I guess. I didn't know that he could even earn it from that in the U.S. Everything else essentially has to go through Canada. For him to earn NIL money. So he did mention just the ability to be back here. It gave him some opportunities to earn some of that NIL funding while he was here. So, that's certainly cool too. But no, the city's great. It's a beautiful city. People are friendly. So
there you go.
Did you have any good poutine?
I don't like fries, Ben. I'm a weird person. Right. I don't like fries.
Right.
So
ooh.
Yeah,
that is a weird one. Do you like potatoes, like in general?
I like mashed potatoes, but I'm not a big potato person. It's a long story that involves my dad cooking a baked potato as a side for like every meal he ever cooked when I was growing up. But I just eventually just kind of went away from the tater love altogether.
All right, fair enough. But looking at a guy like me, you can't really tell. But I got the beer belly going on. I'm a guy who enjoys my share of fries. So you had fries and cheese and gravy. That's right up my alley. So I was curious if you had an opportunity to try it out.
No, I have not, unfortunately. I'm just glad nobody's really given me heck or asked me too much about missing my flight yet. So.
Oh, I was going to bring it up. It's like, are you going to make the one on the way back? Are you?
I'm hoping so.
What happens?
We've got to leave at 4 tomorrow morning. So yeah,
tough.
Man, I got this random toothache out of nowhere the night before. I got that's pretty classic.
That is funny.
I'm sorry, taterology. But yeah, I got this random toothache the night before out of nowhere, and then it went away the next day, and I was like, I could not sleep. I was in so much pain, and it was like 2:30 in the morning. It's like, I'm not gonna wake up to my alarm. So I set like 15 of them, slept through all of them. Woke up an hour late, did about 80 all the way down to the airport, hour and 10 minutes. And I get there and they said I missed being able to check in by 10 minutes. And it wouldn't let me check in ahead of time because of the passport thing. And they said, yeah, if you were already checked in, like we'd let you go and you'd still make your flight. I'm positive, but they wouldn't do it because it wouldn't even check me in at the counter. So the good people of American Airlines took care of me, though. They got me on a flight an hour later. By the time I got to the gate, I basically boarded a little bit later. The layover was actually shorter at Charlotte than it was supposed to be. And I only, my buddy who did make his flight, only got up here like an hour before I did. So it was all good. But I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try my best tomorrow morning. I think I'm going to give my spare key to my buddy so that if I don't wake up, he can come in and smack me around.
Take it. Yeah. So, we're about an hour, 15 minutes in. Do either of you have anything, whether it be game, Toronto, flights, toothaches, anything else you guys want to hit on?
Yeah, I do. I just want to say it's encouraging to see Purdue win in different ways. And they keep winning in different ways. They fell behind multiple times throughout this game. They battled back. They defeated a team that was shooting nuclear hot from the three-point range. We've seen the sloppy turnover games. We've seen the physical games. We've seen the slow starts. We've seen the hang on to a lead at the end games. This is that game where they came back and they won. And Alabama's a good team. Really impressive victory for the Boilers.
Yeah, and we don't even really have to preview it too much, but the next game is Arizona in Indy, and right. Arizona just stomped on Wisconsin, beating them by 25 at home, but still, absolutely stomped Wisconsin. The only game they've only played 2 games where they haven't won by more than 25, and that they won at Duke by 5, and then that neutral site game against Michigan State they won it by 6. Gonna be a tough game. The Arizona is arguably the best team in the country. If they're not the best, they're the second best. This is a team that is, Alabama played fast. Arizona is going to play fast, and Arizona has skill pretty much up and down their roster. They have size with Ballo. It's going to be a good matchup. Caleb Love is a guy that can, was going to be in the Big Ten for a bit at Michigan. Now he's at Arizona. He can get hot from 3 really quick. He can also be ice cold. Kylan Boswell, their sophomore point guard. He's really good. That'll be a fun matchup with Braden Smith. We don't have to, like I said, we don't have to go crazy in depth, but what is there anything that kind of stands out to you with that matchup? Anything you're excited for, whether it be on the court, off court, whatever it is surrounding the Purdue Arizona matchup?
Well, I am excited about it because Purdue has shown in multiple games, not just today, that if they need to outscore somebody, they can. And if they need to play faster, they can. The thing, I don't want to say that I was more worried about today's matchup than Arizona, maybe equally going into it, but for different. In some ways, the Alabama one scared me a little bit more because Arizona is not a team that's really good at putting a bunch of on-ball pressure. Not really a team that's excellent at pressing or even in a half-court sense, just putting a bunch of on-ball pressure on there. So I think we're going to be able to score against them. I think that's a game. If they want to play fast, it's a game to me that Purdue could score 90 plus in. So I'm just really looking forward to that Arizona game more than anything. And you have to see what their bigs do against Zach, how they're going to adjust their game, seeing somebody that big for the first time.
Yeah, and Arizona's good. I'm just look. I watched them against Michigan State. I watched the Duke. I'll go watch the Wisconsin game probably tomorrow. They're one of the best defenses in the country, and they're not maybe an insane ball pressure. They have been forced a lot of turnovers. They're in the 80th percentile for defensive, or 80th overall, for defensive turnover percentage. But the bigger one is rebounding. They are the 9th best offensive rebounding team in the country, and they are the best defensive rebounding team in the country. Ballo's a beast down low. They have 2 7-footers that play legit minutes. They'll be a team that's probably for the first time, really feels like for the first time since Edey's become dominant, that this team will have a 7-footer out there with Edey for 40 minutes. What does the foul discrepancy look like? That Arizona's not a team that fouls a lot either. This is going to be a great matchup and a great test for Purdue, just in general, whether it be Edey, whether it be the guards, getting out and having to run more, just pretty much everything. I'm excited. Do you got anything, Ben, on this, or are you good?
I'm excited. Anytime the Boilers get to play number 1 ranked team in the nation, it's exciting, right?
There we go. So I think that's kind of wrapping it up here. We've gone through pretty much everything at this point. We will be back next Saturday post game after it's in the Indy Classic or whatever it's called, the game in Indianapolis. Purdue today, though, gets the 92-86 win over Alabama up in Toronto. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Like I said, it just helps us a ton. We are also on audio platforms, which is Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts. 5-star review also helps us a lot there. Follow us on our Twitter at BoilersInStands. Like I said, I believe our pinned tweet is our link to our merch. If you guys do want to go buy some stuff, definitely go check that out. We appreciate Ben for filling in once again, popping on. You can find him on Twitter, BR Colo.
Yep.
BR Colo.
Yep.
It's right there on the screen, Joe. It's right there on the screen.
It just messed with me. I don't know. At BRKOLO. He's also does work at ISC Purdue. Definitely go follow them on Twitter as well. You can follow Kraig on Twitter at Kraig Bowers 34 and me on Twitter at Joe Jackson CBB. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We will catch you Saturday after the Arizona matchup.